Hi, welcome. My name is Elaine. Welcome to the decree. So this is part 8, the family decree. And so if you haven't done and look and saw and watched the videos 1 to 7, it's really important because preparing your space and preparing the environment for the decree is really important. And also because it gets your nervous system ready, it gets your body ready. So the decree supports a deeper level of change. We're really working directly with what the body is holding. And so insight can become real movement in your life now. So the decree core is I'm sovereign. I sever these energetic cords. It is done. It is a sovereign declaration of independence. I'm not asking anybody's permission. I'm choosing, I'm deciding, and I'm doing it. So why would you want to do a decree? Because cords are draining. Control cords can manipulate your thoughts and emotions. Cords can siphon your life force, and your energy is being used for loosh, right? So to stay in a low vibration of fear, shame, anger, guilt. And we're told like what I saw was that 80% they need 80% of our energy for loosh at that low vibration. And there's also karma cords, the false white light that tries to convince you to redo the same trauma with the same people over and over again, the reincarnation loop. So these energetic cords don't break just because you move away physically. Distance doesn't sever these energetic connections. You can set boundaries mentally, but thoughts alone don't cut these energetic cords. And maybe some people can die physically, but if they die physically in 3D, they can still affect and interfere from 4D. Um, so that's something to be aware of as well. Before you begin, choose your timing. Do it when you're ready and not rushed. If you are uncertain, wait until you are certain. There's no rush. The mind is always telling us, oh, we're so late. We should have done this 10 years ago. It's happening now only if you choose it. So you just need to be really clear if you're ready and why you are choosing this. And make sure you have private time where you won't be interrupted. Emotional readiness, you might feel grief, you might remember old memories. Anger might come up, sadness might come up, intense fear might come up, anxiety. But, do it when you're ready. And you don't even need to tell anybody because you're not doing this to have permission. You know, this is your time and this is your space. This is your declaration. And then just gather your materials. You just need, a piece of white paper and a pen. And you don't want to be writing, a whole journal. You want it to be very specific and immediate. So write it by hand, not typed, and write it, with a pen. So prepare your fire source because you're going to be burning it. So a pan. Um, here's your paper, and then have some tongs to hold the paper, and then a pot. So usually, if you can do it in the kitchen or outside, but do it safely. And then you need some sea salt, a lighter, matches, or a candle, and then have a backup. So I've gone to burn the decree, and then the lighter, didn't work, but I had some wooden matches. So I did have backup. So, things like that, they're not signs that you're doing something wrong. It's like that is the interference. The interference is trying to stop you from claiming your sovereignty, for claiming your freedom. Because what are you doing? You're just writing some things on a piece of paper and burning it. But why would there be so much interference? But your body will tell you. Your body will tell you if you feel heavy or you feel drained, and and um just notice how your body is experiencing as you go through the process. So yeah, you definitely need a fireproof container, pot or metal bowl, and maybe some gloves for safety, some kitchen mitts or something like that. And then have nearby, water nearby, be, close to the kitchen sink. Remember, it's not a bonfire. You're only burning a piece of paper and then we're folding it 3 times, right? So, you know, you're not writing more than this one piece of paper. Okay. Um, and safety matters. So just make sure that you're doing this in a safe way. So sometimes the paper can burn really quickly, or sometimes it can burn very slowly, but just notice that as well. I've noticed that if it burns very slowly, that just shows how much interference has been happening in your life. And then, but we're going to call in, how we do the decree is we call in the team. So your team of unconditional love. So God, so we connect through our hearts. So this is heart-based work. And we connect to God, source, divine presence through our hearts, connecting with our higher selves, our guides and angels and archangels of only unconditional love. Right? So everybody's worried, is it a false higher self, a false guide, a false angel, a false archangel? And yeah, good question to ask, but the way to make sure that they are not is by connecting directly to source, and also whoever you call in is only of unconditional love. And that's very important to say unconditional love. So I'm gonna read it out and you're gonna write it out on the piece of paper, and then you're gonna speak it out loud 3 times. And then we burn it safely, extra safely, use extreme caution. It's only one piece of paper, but it can smoke a lot. And so just, be prepared with a fan or open windows, and then sprinkle salt on the ashes and make sure the paper burns to ash. And if something doesn't burn, then reburn that. Notice what part didn't burn when it's kind of safe to, you can pick up that little piece of paper with the tongs and just notice what didn't burn. And then that will really give you a clue of what or who has been interfering in your life. And then we're going to flush it down the toilet. Symbolic, but also it's like the water is washing it away. And then make sure all the ashes do go down the toilet. I have thought that all of it has flushed, and then I open the toilet and there's some ash still in the toilet. And some has even been hidden around the toilet seat. So just notice that. So the decree helps clear interference so you can maintain a 5D consciousness in a 3D body. If you maintain a consciousness level of 500 on the Dr. David Hawkins map of consciousness, you can help 750 souls, emanated source beings in a 3D body below 200. So that's a very low 3D where people are living kind of in fear mostly and guilt. And so once people get to at least 200, which is a high level of 3D, they start having courage, they start asking questions, they start claiming their personal power beyond fear, beyond guilt, beyond shame, and beyond grief. So 5D is anchoring in the world we want to live in: peace, fairness, joy, safety, inner wisdom, inner love, presence, connection to the divine without interference. With the decree, we have to hear it, speak it out loud. We have to feel it in our bodies. Nothing shifts until the body says yes. The body is the golden key. And it is the golden key because we can see where the interference is coming from. And it's our body, but also our nervous system really tells. And then we can really choose to stay anchored in 3D, in a 3D body, but a 5D consciousness. And that's what a lot of people are working with today. So in this energy work, we ask for the veil between our higher selves and our guides of unconditional love and source to dissolve so that we may feel, know, and experience guidance in its purest form with the body, eyes open with the body. We can integrate all the dimensions of our being into the oneness of the present moment and allow the fullness of our gifts to finally flow through us without the interference. We can express our higher self in this body, in this 3D body, and in this life now. The present life matters the most. And then we can trust the wisdom of our soul and our and source's guidance. So 3 and 4D, Earth is free will, and it is a cosmic law. We have to let go in order for God's source divine presence to step in. And that's the hardest thing to do in a 3D body, in a 3D consciousness, is to let go and to trust. But once you start asking questions, the letting go starts feeling easier. So an example would be like in the family, they're used to your loyalty. They're used to you forgiving. They're used to you giving lots of chances. They're used to you being, over functioning. And if you're an empath, starseed, sensitive, um, you're a light worker and you've come into this earth body with a lot of unconditional love, right? It's your essence, it's your home base. But in 3D, because there's so much interference, we have to kind of name a spade a spade. And we have to name things as they are, not how we want them to be. And not see people from their higher selves, but how are they behaving now? Are they lying, cheating, and stealing? And if they're lying, cheating, and stealing, are you okay with them lying, cheating, and stealing? Because a relationship requires respect, equal respect both ways. And so when you're around people that don't operate in integrity, but they rely on you having integrity, they're not all of a sudden going to do the right thing. You might hope that they eventually will, or you hope that they will learn. But if they're not doing it in the present and there's no examples in the past, right? You're just looping and you're just going over and over and over, and you're just wasting kind of all your energy. And if you want to do that, if you're choosing to do that, then that's okay, you know? But if you wanted something different, that's what the decree is. If you want something new to happen, you know, your loyalty is meant for the divine. Your loyalty is meant for, what are you here to do in this life now? And your loyalty is meant for people that reciprocate with integrity, not for those who steal, lie, and drain you for decades. So what you're declaring in the decree is that your loyalty is sacred. And those who violate it, respect needs to go both ways in the now, not later. And you don't need to teach people. You don't need, everybody knows, especially you can use it, with money. Because when, say somebody is very disrespectful towards you, but they're not with their boss because their boss actually has power to give them money. And so they're respectful to the boss, but disrespectful to you. And then they might say, oh, but it's because my boss is so hard on me, and that's why I come home and treat you like garbage. Well, okay, but that's abuse. So you can finally start saying, no, because they know the difference. You don't have to teach people integrity. You don't have to teach people to not steal. We're talking about adults. You don't need to teach adults to not steal. You don't need to teach adults to not lie or the consequences of lying. You don't need to teach adults. If they're not doing this behavior of respect to respect, then they know how to respect people that they want to respect. So in this work, there's no spiritual bypassing. We're not love and light saying, oh, well, they just don't know any better. They do. They're not children. They know better, and they know when somebody has power, especially money, they are very respectful. And, forgiveness is like toxic. It like re-engages, you re-engage with their frequency. Like you can forgive, but not engage anymore. Not make yourself available to whatever anybody wants to do. You can just make yourself unavailable. But, I forgive everybody, but that doesn't mean everybody is allowed to be in my life. Especially if they're lying, cheating, and stealing, they have zero access. And I think lying is worse than cheating because the lying always precedes the cheating. So I don't care if you cheat, there's nothing I can do. We can't control people. But when you're lying, then it blocks my sovereignty. It blocks me from making a sovereign decision. So if I feel like, you're cheating and then you say I'm not, and so you lied, then then I have to work even harder to make a sovereign decision. And I'm also getting confused because I'm getting messages, from my higher self or my body, and then it's like a crazy making dynamic where, they're teaching you to doubt yourself. Gaslighting, I think, is the word. But this is energy work. So it's not psychological, it's not spiritual, it's not religious, it's energy, right? So we kind of can name some labels, but we don't have to be attached to them. And so you're just basically saying, look, people can do whatever they want, but it doesn't that but they don't have access to your energy. Not because of blood, being a blood relative, not because of shared incarnations, not because for any reason. If there is no respect, mirroring respect, then that's not a relationship. It's a bondage situation. So complete severance is claiming, you were patient. Light workers have an abundance of patience, but who's getting harmed with all the patience? Who is giving all the chances? And so, you've been waiting for decades even for completion, for a shift, and there's no shift, right? So we're updating the Akashic records. So that's your soul's complete history across all timelines. We're also updating the Book of Life, which is the divine record of all souls and their connections. We're also updating the tapestry. I'm not so sure if about the tapestry, but we're just going to name it. It's an interwoven web of connections, karma, and agreements. And I learned in QHHT, quantum hypnosis, Dolores Cannon would say that the tapestry cannot be updated or changed. And I don't believe that is true. I believe that if the tapestry is where the karma is in the agreements, then I believe that that's all part of the false light. So I update it all. Update it with your higher self, update it with source. They're the ultimate in authorities, not some records, right? And then the cosmic records, that's Thoth, Thoth, from the Egyptian expression or timeline, you can say. And then so we're going to call in the team. So we can do that now. So let's call in the team as we land here in the present moment, connecting our hearts. Breathe in and breathe out. We're grounded in Mother Earth. So that's 3D, Tara 5, 6D, and then Gaia 7 to 9D. We give thanks to the ancestors of the land that have walked this path before us, and we draw strength from Gaia, and we are centered in our being, grounded and connected. We now open our hearts to source energy connected to unconditional love through the golden light of our hearts. We now call in our higher selves of unconditional love for energy, clearing, and alignment. May our higher selves be fully aligned with Source, guiding this decree with love, clarity, and the highest good of all. And just notice how your body is responding. So even as I'm reading this, I can feel the releases happening. We now call in our higher selves of unconditional love for energy and clearing and alignment. Okay, fully present. I usually wait till I hear like here, here, we're here. So the name of your space. So we say that the name of your space is sealed in Source's name. And that's part of the decree video too. So name your space. And that's how you can seal your space in Source's name. The name is now sealed in Source's name. So we now surround the space with a golden shield of Source's golden light. Only energies aligned with unconditional love, Source, and the highest good may enter. All interference, false guides, or disruptive energies are repelled by Source's golden light. Okay, so this is the beginning of the writing. So you can get your piece of paper and your pen and start writing. So I, and then your full name. The day, month, and year of birth. I'm up if you know it. If not, just leave it. The city, province, or state you were born in, and the country. And then you're going to write in full sovereignty and with the witnessed authority of, and whatever word you want to use, but either God, Source, or divine presence. And then write the name of your guides of unconditional love that you want to call in. So examples would be like Yeshua, Jesus, Mother Mary, Miriam, but it can be anybody. Those are just two that popped in my top of my head. Archangel Michael is another one. But one, guides that have come to you that have been important to you. But we're here with our higher selves and God, Source, divine presence. So really that's all you need too, right? So just name them and then write down, I hereby issue this decree. All contracts, cords, vows, karmic agreements, soul ties are expelled from my field. So I'll repeat that again. So all contracts, cords, vows, karmic agreements, soul ties are expelled from my field, and energetic connections with. So this is the family decree. So list the people, but list the people that you've had difficulty with. So I sever cords to the mother, father, brother, sister, adopted mother, father, foster mother, father. Um, and then the first person, usually the main person that has kind of created the most problems in your life. And if you have their date of birth, then put that as well. And then state what you are severing, like the dysfunction or the harm. And then what do you reclaim? Like I reclaim, my safety. I reclaim my ability to set boundaries. I reclaim being able to speak my truth, something that resonates for you. So state what you are severing. So I sever, the name calling, the belittling, the controlling, and then what do you reclaim? I reclaim my energy, I reclaim my voice, I reclaim my physical body, and then kind of pick more like the highlights because we know if they're mostly bullied you or if they mostly abused you, what kind of abuse. I know it's not easy to write it down, but if it's not easy to write it down, then really know how much it's been draining you in your life. How much energy it has taken, how much life energy it has taken from you. And then, or even that you're afraid of them, or you even think, well, I shouldn't be, but I am, especially when things happen in our childhood. And then, but we're still having, our body is still responding, even though we're in an adult body, our body is still responding to harm that was done at a younger time when we were powerless, when we didn't have power. But now you're an adult, you have power, right? And that's why we're doing this decree, is to reclaim that your sovereignty and your power. And then do that with the next person. And I usually um, try to, I usually say to do three, kind of do the ones that have created the most problems, the top three. And so do that. You can just pause the video, but you can just do that with three people. But you could do, if you're feeling okay, you can do 4 or 5. But usually I say 3. 3 is manageable because then you're going to see how you feel when you do it, and you're going to also see how they respond. Not that you care how they respond because you're doing it regardless without their permission, but you want to do it in a way that feels safe to you and secure. Okay, so then after that, write are severed, dissolved, and nullified. Nullified. You don't have to worry about spelling, but I can spell it Nullified. So are severed, dissolved, and nullified. And so what is being severed and dissolved and nullified? So you don't have to write this down, but it's to just recap all the contracts, cords, vows, karmic agreements, soul ties that are expelled from your field, and the energetic connection. Right? So you're not expelling the person, you're just expelling the energetic connection. So they are severed, dissolved, and nullified. and that you write that down. Across all timelines, past, present, future, all dimensions, 3D, 4D, 5D, and beyond. And if you need to drink some water, it's good. Energy work requires a lot of tea and water. So all timelines, past, present, future. So you've written that down. Then write down all dimensions, 3D, 4D, 5D, and beyond. And then write down all incarnations, Earth and elsewhere. And then write down the Akashic records, the Book of Life, the Tapestry of all souls, the Cosmic records with Thoth, I revoke all permission for them to, so keep writing. I revoke all permission for them to access my energy. Just notice how your body's feeling. Siphon my energy. Draw from my field. Remain in my timeline. Hold any claim on my resources, inheritance, and sovereignty. I can spell sovereignty because I always find that one tricky. So Sovereignty, but you don't have to worry about it being spelled properly. So hold any claim on my resources, inheritance, and sovereignty. They have no claim on me and my energy. Okay. Take a breath and just stretch. So I reclaim all energy given. I reclaim all loyalty extended. I reclaim all hope invested. I reclaim my complete and total freedom. I was patient. I gave chances. I am complete. I am free. This severance is final and irreversible. IRREVERSIBLE. I put that in capital letters. Irreversible. Period. This decree is spoken with full authority of my higher self, of unconditional love, and backed by source. And then witnessed by, and then write down the names of the guides of unconditional love or the angels of unconditional love or the angels of unconditional love. If there's a particular names that you put at the top of the decree. I thank the team of Unconditional Love for witnessing and protecting this decree. And so be it. It is done. And then continuing, let it be updated in the Akashic records. I know it's a bit of a repeating of writing, but I claim let it be updated in the Akashic records, the Book of Life, the Tapestry, and the Cosmic Records with Thoth. I claim this in Source's name. So it is declared. So it is done. It is sealed. It is irreversible. I am not of their realm, REALM. And this realm has no claim on what I am. Claimed, period, sovereign, period, no vacancy, period, signed in sovereignty, comma, your full name, today's date and time, your signature. You're finally signing a contract that is for your highest and greatest good. So today's date and time and signature. It is done. So be it. And then you're going to read this out loud. So you can pause the video and you're going to read this out loud. You can stand or sit. And then why 3 times? There's a spiritual law of the Trinity, and the Trinity power breaks resistance. And also each time you read it, there's an amplification. So you're amplifying your sovereignty. So each time you read it, it amplifies and increases in frequency. So the writing part is done. So when you do your signature, your full name, today's date and time, your signature, and then you write it is done, so be it. That's the end of the writing. So the writing is complete. And then now I'm just going to give you the overview of why you're going to read it 3 times. And you're going to also notice what's happening with your body each time you read it and what happens to your voice. So every time you read it, it amplifies and increases in frequency with your full voice and your full power. Our voices hold frequency. So sound equals power. So when we speak with authority, you are commanding and you're not asking. And then 3 times, because you will notice how your body is feeling when you speak it. And then each time you speak it, you're amplifying your power, which is also breaking the resistance, kind of breaking the bonds. And then the safely, we're going to burn it safely, which is the physical transmutation. So hold it over a fireproof container on the stove. So you're going to move right to somewhere safe. So you have a pot and then you have your paper and then the tongs, right? So you can hold it away from you, but you can see even folding it 3 times, it's still a bit flimsy. But I find if you fold it more, it gets more smoky, and then just hold it, and then you're just going to burn it, light it, and then drop it into your pot as it turns into ash. And then just make sure that everything has burnt. And if something doesn't burn, um, relight it safely, and then command that the name or the word or whatever didn't burn is released. I am free. And just remember, your team is witnessing. Your team of unconditional love is witnessing, and your records are being updated as you speak. So you're witnessing the burning. It's your conscious participation. So it's not just a ritual because you're consciously doing it. And you declare the completion. It is done. So your sovereignty is enacted in the present moment. And you're not being saved by some external force or some fantasy of later, of somebody coming in to save you later. You're actually liberating yourself in the present by yourself. And make sure you always drink lots of water, tea. And then how to dispose the ashes. So you want to put some salt, sea salt, on the ashes. It works to seal it. Salt seals the space, like when you salt the 4 corners of your room, you're sealing the space in Source's name. So you're putting sea salt on the ashes, and then make sure everything has burned to ash, and then flush it down the toilet. This releases all to the water, and the water washes it away. And just notice how your body's feeling. Like I'm feeling a lot in my third eye. I'm feeling a lot in my throat. So don't keep the ashes. Absolutely do not keep the ashes. They are not a memento. They are not a keepsake. They are released energy. So don't hold on to them unless you want to keep the energy. My right ear is burning. It's like, yeah, like release it. Don't hold on to the ashes. And then speak out loud. This space is sealed in Source's name. The cords are severed. I am free. The decree is sealed in Source's name and released to Source. It is irreversible. I thank my team of unconditional love for witnessing and protecting. And so it is. It is done. Okay. And then self-care afterwards. After you do this, wash your hands, have an Epsom salt or sea salt foot bath, or put your feet in the ocean. If you're close by to the ocean, put your feet in the ocean. Have a bath with Epsom salt, or a shower just to clear the energy. The ocean is medicine. And then let the body process the release. Like just even reading all of this, my body has a lot of action happening to it, just in saying the words out loud. And then just rest. I always say, take 3 days after doing some kind of energy work or energy clearing, because your body needs time to integrate all the changes. And just trust yourself and trust your team of unconditional love. Notice the shifts in your body, and then write down any changes you notice in a journal, because you think you'll remember, but you won't. And then you'll be quite surprised when you read it later. And then write down your dreams as they come in. if you wake up remembering a dream, it is not a dream. It is a message from your higher self. And so write it down, even if you don't totally understand where the dream is coming from, it is a clue. So you might feel liberated, you might feel exhausted, right? Because massive energy is coming back to you, and you probably didn't even realize how much energy you were putting out there. You might feel lighter. You might feel like this weight has been released. And you might feel emotional, like there might be grief and relief simultaneously. You might feel grief and also relieved. It's finally over. And you also might just feel complete. And so now your body can really stabilize at 5D because you're not going to be constantly energetically yanked around. And with the family decree, there might be family backlash, if they're, because all you're doing is you're claiming your energy. But if they're siphoning your energy, they're not going to like that you've claimed your energy. And remember, they can get their own energy. They siphoning your energy is what can make you sick. It can make you feel confused. It can make you not be able to move ahead in your life. It can make you not be able to connect and attract like a divine partnership. So the family might start calling or texting excessively, saying that they care, or they feel angry, or they're guilt tripping. Maybe even if they don't even know you're doing the decree, but they just feel it energetically. I always say if you can, just keep it to yourself, do it for yourself, by yourself. And, but they might also create a crisis. And the thing is, it's always interesting. You didn't even tell them what happened, and all of a sudden, all of this is happening, where they need you now. But really give yourself the 3 days to integrate, unless there is like a real emergency. But if they freak out, it's usually because they can feel the severance and they're panicking because they have been using and siphoning your energy. And we're all people that are healthy do not siphon other people's energy. They have their own. So, and how you can respond is like what they call the gray rock, where you're just a minimal response, boring, non-reactive. I had one person say that out of the blue, the father was like, saying that they're going to cut them off financially. And that used to really, that was like a very old trick that the father, to control the person, they would always say, I'm going to cut you off financially. And so the person, surprised themselves, but they gave like a thumbs up. The father's like, if you don't do what I'm telling you to do, I'm going to financially cut you off. And then they gave the father a thumbs up. And then it stopped finally, like that has been going on for decades. And, you know, like they weren't giving their energy to the fear. So boundaries, block if needed, don't answer calls, don't engage, use your discernment and just notice, be curious if this is so nothing, you know, this energetic severance, then how come people are really showing who they are? Because healthy people would never like invade your space that way. They would never guilt you. They would never cross your boundaries. Like healthy people are respectful, and just notice if they guilt trip you. Their reaction is not your responsibility. It's their attachment that's being severed, their siphoning that is being severed. And you're saying to them, you have your own energy. We all have our own energy. And then if you have nightmares, just notice the dreams. They're trying to scare you or put you back into like a submissive place. And just notice, any illnesses, panic attacks, Just notice kind of what happens. If there's technology disruptions, say the technology decree every day, claim your space every day, bring in the plants as you can in your home, and if you have intrusive thoughts like the critical voice saying, you did something wrong. Now look, they're suffering. It's like you're not that powerful. You're not that powerful to make people suffer energetically. You're not. So there's that the conscious mind will kick in with a critical voice, maybe I should apologize or maybe I did something wrong. It's like, think about what you did. Think about the simplicity of what you did. You're just saying, I sever the cords, the energetic cords. I gave chances. I was patient and I'm done. I want my own energy. And I want relationships that mirror respect and respect. And so on a daily basis, do um, the preparing of your space, part 3. You can always watch part 3 video again. How plants can help you maintain your frequency, part 4. And then part 5, the technology decree, is like right when you wake up, before you touch your phone or your computer, or your smartwatch, do your technology decree. And just affirm, I am sovereign. My decree stands. Cords are severed. Unconditional love. Team, protect me. Source, protect me. And then just keep the maintenance of the protection of your room, of your space, the salt, the essential oils, and then just trust the process. If there's shifts, it means it worked. So don't doubt it. If people have reactions without them even knowing what happened, that just shows how powerful the energy is and how you've been siphoning. We're always clearing, right? The throat is where they get us. But it worked. So don't doubt it. And then don't redo it unless something, until you're ready to do like the next phase. Because with the family decree, you might have to do a few decrees, like do a few people at a time, depending on your trauma background. And then just affirm, I am not of this realm. This realm has no claim on what I am. I am not of this realm, period. This realm has no claim on what I am, period. So it is done, signed in sovereignty, and connecting back into our hearts, connecting to Source, connecting to Mother Earth, to Tara, to Gaia, New Earth. And thanks for being here and take care.